This is the Unit 1 assessment. You should be looking at the passage titled Danger, Children at Work. Put your finger on paragraph number 1 and follow along. During the late 1800s, a great change took place in the United States. People moved from farms into cities in huge numbers. They wanted to work in factories where they could earn steady paychecks. Whole families moved to look for jobs, but there were very few laws to protect those who found work. There weren't even laws that kept children from working very long hours. Factory owners, in fact, preferred to hire children. They were easier to manage. They were less likely to go on strike. If you look off to the right, you'll see the definition of strike. That means to stop working in an effort to make a change at work. They worked for much lower wages than their parents. Often, their smaller hands could better handle certain machines and tools. Their smaller bodies could fit into small places in factories and mines. By 1900, 18% of all American workers were under the age of 16. That's more than 2 million children. Some children worked in mines, mills, and canneries. If you look off to the right, you'll see that a cannery is a factory where food is put into a can. Others delivered messages, sold newspapers, and shined shoes. In Southern cotton mills, 25% of the workers were under 15. Half of those were below age 12. Some of these children worked 12 hours a day in hot and closed places filled with soot, dust, and loud noise. Soot is black dust formed when something burns. Many worked 6 days a week to earn $1. They had little time for school or play and often became ill. Yes, the United States was beginning to hum with industry. Hum meaning to be busy. But shamefully, its engines were driven in part by tiny hands. On the page, find paragraph 4. Things began to change in the early 1900s. By then, adult workers all over the country were demanding better treatment. States such as Massachusetts and New York had already passed laws limiting children's workdays to 10 hours. The laws also barred children from certain jobs. But change came slowly. It wasn't until 1904 that the National Child Labor Committee formed, led by reformers including Jane Addams, Florence Kelley, and Lillian Wald. In 1924 and 1937, Congress passed federal laws to regulate child labor, but the states would not ratify them. Ratify means to make official by signing it or voting for it. The states held on to their laws, which varied a lot from state to state. Finally, in 1938, the Fair Labor Standards Act was passed. This new law set minimum wages of 16 for work during school hours, 14 for certain jobs after school, and 18 for dangerous work. It also limited the number of hours that children could work in a week. It's hard to believe that young children were once lowered into coal mines to work 12-hour days. and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. There are still parts of the country where children work hard, on farms, for example, but our current laws help keep children in school and protect them from hard labor. All right, guys, so we are going to flip to question number 1. There's another passage that you'll see, but we're going to not read that one yet. We're going to go answer some questions and then we'll come back. If you need, you can pull this apart so you can have it right next to you while you answer your questions. Press pause to go find question number 1. Question number 1. This question has 2 parts. First, answer part A, then answer part B. Part A, which sentence states a main idea in the passage? A, in the late 1800s, American factories were unhealthy places for children to work. Is that a main idea from the passage? B, factory owners in New York City wanted to improve working conditions. Was that a main idea in this passage? C, workers who went on strike in Massachusetts changed the course of history. Is that a main idea from this passage? Or D, when the National Child Labor Committee formed, changes to labor laws happened quickly. What is a main idea that comes from this passage? Part B. Press pause, answer the question. You can press play when you're ready. Part B. Which sentence from the passage supports the central idea in part A? Remember, these have to directly connect. A, factory owners, in fact, preferred to hire children. B, by 1900, 18% of all American workers were under the age of 16. C, some of these children worked 12 hours a day in hot, enclosed places filled with soot, dust, and loud noise. D, there are still parts of the country where children work hard, on farms, for example. Press pause, mark your answer. Question number 2. In the late 1800s, huge numbers of people moved to the cities to A, go to school, B, work in factories, C, get jobs on farms, D, work in coal mines. Press pause and mark your answer. 3, which sentence from the passage would best fit as a caption for the photograph? So you're going to go back and you're going to look at this picture here. And which one of these would work as a caption for this photograph? A, whole families moved to look for jobs. B, by 1900, 18% of all American workers were under the age of 16. C, there are still parts of the country where children work hard, on farms, for example. Or D, the states held on to their own laws, which varied a lot from state to state. Press pause and mark your answer. Four, which sentence from paragraph 3 gives the best evidence to support the claim that working conditions in the early 1900s were harmful to children? You're going to underline one piece of evidence. Here is paragraph 3. Many worked 6 days a week to earn $1. They had little time for school or play and often became ill. Yes, the United States was beginning to hum with industry, but shamefully, its engines were driven in part by tiny hands. You are underlining the one piece of evidence that supports the claim that working conditions in the early 1900s were harmful for children. One sentence, underline it, press pause, mark your answer. 5, based on the passage, choose 2 reasons factory owners preferred to hire children. A, adults had to be in school at least 3 months every year. B, children's small hands and bodies could fit into tight spaces. C, adults could not work for as many hours as children. D, factories offered education as well as paychecks. E, children were easier to control than adults. You're marking 2. Press pause, mark your answers. 6, read the events listed below. Put the events in chronological order by writing the number 1 for first through 5, which would be last next to the sentence. We've talked about chronological order, the order in which they happened. You're going to have to go back to the text and find these things to be able to put them into order. The first one says the Fair Labor Standard Act set limits on age and hours. Press pause, go back into the text, find that and underline it. The second one says children worked in mines, mills, and canneries. Press pause, go back in the text and find that, underline it. The next one says Massachusetts and New York passed laws to limit children's work days. Go back and find it in the text, underline it. Press pause until you're done. Millions of Americans moved from farms to the cities. Press pause, go back into the text, find it and underline it. The last one says factory owners hired huge numbers of children. Go back into the text, press pause and underline it. Now that you have them all underlined, go back and find the order in which this occurred. The first thing, you're going to put a 1. The second thing, you'll put a 2. The third thing, you'll put a 3. The fourth thing that happened, you'll put a 4. And the last thing that happened, you'll put a 5. Press pause, go back and complete question number 6. All right, it is now time to go back to our second story. So you're going to go to the front and find the passage, A Speech by Florence Kelley. You need to follow along as I read. At the very top, it says, on July 22nd, 1905, Florence Kelley gave a speech. Read this passage adapted from her speech, then answer the questions. A speech by Florence Kelley. Paragraph 1. We have in this country 2 million children under the age of 16 years old who are earning their bread. Earning their bread means making money. They vary in age. They are 6 and 7 years in the cotton mills of Georgia. They are 8, 9, and 10 years in the coal mines of Pennsylvania. They are 14, 15, and 16 years in more enlightened states. Tonight, while we sleep, several thousand little girls will be working in textile mills, and textile would be cloth or fabric mills, all through the night. They will work in the deafening noise of the spindles and the looms. Spindles are long, thin rods, and the looms are the machines used to weave cloth. They will spin and weave cotton and wool, silks and ribbons for us to buy. In Georgia, there is no restriction whatsoever. A girl of 6 or 7 years, just tall enough to reach the bobbins, the objects that yarn and thread is wound around. They may work 11 hours by day or by night. and they will do so tonight while we sleep. Nor is it only in the South that these things occur. Alabama does better than New Jersey. For Alabama limits the children's work at night to 8 hours. New Jersey permits it all night long. Last year, New Jersey took a long backward step. A good law was repealed. It had required women and children to stop work at 6 p.m. and at noon on Friday. But now in New Jersey, boys and girls after their 14th birthday enjoy the pitiful privilege of working all night long. In Pennsylvania, until last May, it was lawful for children 13 years of age to work 12 hours at night. Turn the page. 7. The children make our shoes in the factories. They knit our stockings, our knitted underwear in the knitting factories. They spin and weave our cotton underwear in the cotton mills. Children braid straw for our hats. They spin and weave the silk and velvet we trim our hats with. They stamp buckles and metal ornaments of all kinds, as well as pins and hat pins. We do not wish this. We prefer to have our work done by men and women, but we are almost powerless, not wholly powerless, however, are citizens who enjoy the right of petition. For myself, I shall use this power in every possible way until the right to the ballot is granted. See that one? You can look at the bottom. Women did not have the right to vote until 1920. So at this point, she was giving the speech and didn't even get to vote. And then I shall continue to use both. What can we do to free our consciences, our mind? There is one line of action by which we can do much. We can enlist the working men on behalf of our cause, just as we strive with them to free the children. No labor organization in this country ever fails to respond to an appeal for help in freeing the children. For the sake of the children, we should enlist the working men voters with us in the task of freeing the children from toil, hard and difficult work. All right, again, if you would like to tear this off, so you can have it next to you as you answer the rest of the questions, I want you to flip to, we're now ready for question number 7. Go ahead and flip to question number 7. Follow along as I read to you. According to Florence Kelly, where did thousands of little girls work all night? Go back in the text and find, where did they work all night? A, in coal mills. B, on farms. C, in textile mills. D, on ships. Press pause, mark your answer. 8. This question has 2 parts. First answer part A, then answer part B. How is this passage different from Danger Children at Work? So how is Florence Kelly different than Danger Children at Work? A, it is less personal and less emotional. B, it was written to persuade rather than to inform. It contains more historical dates and statistics. It is shorter, so it is much easier to understand. Press pause and mark your answer. I want you to think about author's purpose on this. Part B, which sentence from the passage supports your answer to part A? A, nor is it only in the South that these things occur. B, they spin and weave our cotton underwear in the cotton mills. C, not wholly powerless, however, are citizens who enjoy the right of petition. D, we should enlist the working men voters with us in this task of freeing the children from toil. Question 9. In 1905, Kelly could only use the right to petition to bring about change because A, women could not vote at that time. B, working men did not support her cause. C, women were not allowed to protest. D, there were no labor organizations then. Press pause and mark your answer. Ten. In paragraph 4, the UR in the word occur is pronounced the same as the what? I'm not going to read these words to you. I want you to look at each sound and circle the answer where the UR has the same sound as the word occur. Press pause and mark your answer. Question 11. In paragraph 9, the EA in appeal is pronounced like the E in which word? I'm not going to read the words. Press pause and mark your answer. Question 12. This question has 2 parts. First, answer part A, then answer part B. What is the main idea of Florence Kelly's speech? A, every night, thousands of children work in the textile mills. B, we must help pass new labor laws to protect our children. C, since women cannot vote, we need support from working men. D, some states are better than others for protecting men or for protecting children. Press pause and mark your answer. Part B, reread the paragraphs below. Choose 2 sentences from these paragraphs that support the main idea in part A. You're going to underline 2 sentences that support your answer in A. What can we do to free our consciences? There is one line of action by which we can do much. We can enlist the working men on behalf of our cause as we strive with them to free the children. No labor organization in this country ever fails to respond to an appeal for help in freeing of the children. For the sake of children, we should enlist the working men, voters, with us in the task of freeing the children from toil. Press pause and mark your answer. When you are done, make sure your name is on all of the pages. You will staple these back together and turn it into the proper box.